The film opens up with a frightening scene of a school assault with kids shouting and paramedics hurrying to the region. Among the partners is a specialist named Dr. Harsh, who enters the school and finds a youthful Wendy damaged by the experience. Dr. Harsh solaces the young lady and commitments that all will be great. The scene then quick advances by quite a while where a grown-up Wendy awakens from her rest. It is uncovered that she's battling with emotional well-being issues and is taking drug to adapt. Wendy lives with her significant other Lars and their child Carl in a little house. In spite of the fact that they have an extremely close bond, each and every day is quite difficult for them because of their restricted funds. Later we get to realize that Wendy works at a burger joint with a partner named Elmar. Regularly she is a bashful individual naturally and consistently attempts to keep away from individuals, yet today she chooses to get some information about her advancement. Tragically, the last option declines it mercilessly. In spite of the way that Wendy is her best worker, soon after while making a garbage run, Wendy meets a vagrant named Merrick, who asks her for the extra food and she obliges. He abruptly specifies "you are the one" and takes off without giving her any unique circumstance. What a savage. Coming back home, Wendy is lost in her viewpoints when out of nowhere Merrick frightens her from behind. He encourages her to quit taking her drug, guaranteeing that they smother her real self. True to form, Wendy thinks he is insane, so to demonstrate that he has superpowers, Merrick leaps off the roadway span and deliberately gets run over by a vehicle that demonstrated nothing. Wendy is left in unadulterated mistrust at what she recently saw, so promptly she calls the police. The following day she goes to a treatment meeting and observes that the specialist Harsh is her new therapist. Wendy imparts her experience to Merrick, yet attempts to get over it as a fantasy. Nonetheless, Dr. Certain becomes dubious and chooses to amp her dose of her everyday medicine some other time. When Wendy gets back, she finds an ousting note on the entryway, further adding to her pressure. The next night she by and by meets Merrick outside the burger joint and is shocked in this while she had thought he was just her creative mind. Be that as it may, seeing him eye to eye after what happened the prior night, she can't accept the obvious reality when he attempts to ask how he is as yet alive. In any case, Merrick essentially gives her a flyer prior to running away from the area due to the experience. Wendy begins to feel overpowered, so she chooses to quit taking her prescription. The next day she encounters withdrawal side effects and finds it hard to accumulate at work. She turns out to be progressively peevish and irascible. Coming back, Wendy is stood up to by a couple of feline guests, which sets off her attitude considerably more. She affronts them dreadful, inciting one of the men to lurch towards her. In any case, Wendy gets angrier constantly and winds up nailing the man to the floor as different thugs assailant. She incredibly heaves them high up a few meters away. Wendy, then again, doesn't appear to be confronted and gets back as though nothing has occurred. Turns out she has recaptured her capacities, which had been stifled by the medicine. The film then, at that point, slices to her associate Almar eating with his folks. They generally urge him to join universe. Furthermore, seek after a lifelong in regulation, yet Elmar denies. It is uncovered that he is entranced with superhuman comics and has no desire for life. One day at work, Angela tracks down a messed up piece of kitchen gear and furiously has a go at Wendy. She even takes steps to remove it from her check, incapable to contain her resentment. Wendy loses it and lifts her manager by the neckline, yelling at her to be amiable. After she gets an expression of remorse, she lets Angela go. However, not prior to advance notice her to look out and take care from now on. Elmer likewise witnesses all of this from neighboring, yet rather than getting stunned, he appears to be dazzled, confounded with respect to what is befalling her body. Wendy takes out the flyer given to her by Merrick and heads to the location composed on it. Sooner or later, she winds up in a neglected water park where she at long last meets Merrick. He makes sense of that the new side effects Wendy is encountering are nothing off base, however, or rather her actual self. He likewise uncovers that they aren't the specific ones and that the public authority has been endorsing meds to the people who have abilities to stifle them. Indeed, even Dr. Harsh is associated with the connivance. Hearing this, Wendy ends up being irate and chooses to track down reality, so she advances toward Dr. Harsh's office and breaks in. As when he looks through her documents, she coincidentally finds the stunning disclosure that her partner Elmar is likewise one of specialist Harsh's patients. Worried about his prosperity, Wendy chooses to visit him. She shocks Elmar by moving through his window and urges him to quit taking the blue pills that smother his powers. She needs him to embrace his capacities and become a genuine man. The next day, Wendy's freshly discovered certainty permits her to defy Angela, lastly secure the advancement she has been looking at for such a long time. Later, Almar approaches and uncovers that he has quit taking the pills. He likewise shows his new power, the capacity to produce power. The two then, at that point, choose to celebrate by going for a stroll and en route. Wendy utilizes her capacities to loot an ATM machine. They in the end wind up moving and having a good time inside a club there. Wendy recognizes a few people irritating different ladies and acting rash, so to show them a thing or two, she alongside Elmar bait them into the washroom and beat them almost to death. In the wake of arriving at home, Wendy astounds her significant other Lars with the cash expected to take care of their obligations. In the meantime, it's uncovered that one of the fellows who was thrashed inside the club has announced the occurrence to the police. The authorities don't completely accept that a solitary lady might have taken on different folks, thus they expect that he is insane. However, all of a sudden Dr. Harsh appears at the station and clears up for them that the lady is for sure godlike. One day Wendy takes Elmar to the neglected water amusement park where they meet Merrick. The last option is watchful from the beginning. Yet, before long becomes blissful when Elmar grandstands his powers by driving up the whole amusement park. Following this, Merrick specifies an office where they keep and run tests on individuals like them. He makes sense of that. From the external it seems to be a mental ward, however profound inside it is a jail. Merrick uncovers that he too spent numerous years inside this forlorn jail. Hearing this, Wendy thinks about an arrangement to save the detainees within the office. She and Elmer likewise persuade Merrick to tag. After showing up at the office, Wendy puts on a camouflage and plays with the watchman. She winds up deceiving them and binds them up while Elmar utilizes his powers to impede whole framework, debilitating the cameras. As they advance toward the patient cells, they are spotted by the gatekeepers who figured out how to shoot Merrick. Anyway, he is absolutely unaffected because of his close to powerful body. As the threesome runs outside, they are encircled by 12 watchmen. Yet, Elmar shocks them in a moment. Prior to taking off, Wendy is favored by the viciousness she recently saw. She is particularly stressed that the watchman may be dead, yet Almar is by all accounts unaffected. He rather flaunts his capacities and pronounces his longing to turn into a superhuman. Merrick, notwithstanding, is irate with Alma's words and makes sense of that his foolish mentality prompted individuals like them being secured. In any case, he uncovers that he once attempted to be a legend, which at last brought about the sad passings of his significant other and girl. Some other time when he gets back to find an alcoholic Lars hanging tight, for he's upset that she didn't go to work and promptly expects that she's been undermining him. Wendy is confounded and doesn't have the foggiest idea what to say. However, the following morning, with an end goal to rescue her relationship with her better half, she lies and concedes to having an unsanctioned romance with a partner from work. In any case, she likewise makes sense of that she has finished it. Lars in the end chooses to pardon her. Yet their relationship is stressed. In the meantime, Elmar meets with Dr. Harsh and concedes that he has been encountering unusual dreams of late. He admits that he longed for a vagrant living in an unwanted water park, alluding to Merrick and double-crossing him. The film, then, at that point, slices to the water park, where Merrick's refuge is evaluated by the police and he is caught back at Wendy's home. She is having a patio party with a few companions and colleagues. Tired of the new occasions, she basically needs to invest some energy with her loved ones. Nonetheless, things take an extraordinary turn when Elmar appears excluded and educates Wendy regarding Merrick's capture. He attempts to persuade her to take off with him and begin another life. However, she dismisses him and removes him from the house. In the meantime, Lars becomes enraged when he sees on our leaving and expects that he is the man when he was having an. He stands up to her about it, prompting a contention. Wendy, who can't go on with her lies anymore, at last uncovers her capacities. However, Lars isn't persuaded. He begins accepting that she is preposterous. This drives Wendy so crazy that she harms Lars through the footstool while her child gazes at them in complete shock. Different visitors likewise saw this and understanding that she has been uncovered, Wendy rapidly runs away from the area. Then again, Elmar is consumed by his hunger for power and control. He takes out his disappointment on his dad and shocks him, making him tumble to the floor. Wendy, who is close by, hears the upheaval and hurries to help. Be that as it may, when she arrives at the elderly person, he is lethargic. Elmar again attempts to persuade Wendy to unite. However, true to form, she rejects. Tragically, the choice ends up being an exorbitant one as Elmar irately shocks her too, delivering her oblivious when she wakes up. Wendy ends up lashed to a bed in an office with Dr. Harsh. The last option illuminates her that Elmer is on the run while his dad is Been revived by the paramedics, Wendy then attempts to liberate herself from the table while Dr. Harsh tells her that it is for her own well-being. In flashbacks as a youthful Wendy with her mom in the Keys office, she had been attempting to interface with her cohorts and thus the chief seized her CD player. No. Out of nowhere, Wendy rises into an angry outburst and lifts the table up with her uncovered hands. She then dispatches it with full power towards the standard, killing him mercilessly. Punch that into your number, cruncher. Show in the present, Specialist Harsh consoles Wendy that she isn't an oddity. However, simply needs unique consideration. So Wendy is conceded into the very mental ward that she recently broke into. Specialist Authentic then visits Lars and demands him to bring Wendy's child Carl into her office. She needs to ensure the young man isn't incurred with any extraordinary powers. As days pass by, Wendy is compelled to take medicine while inside the office. She likewise meets Merrick there. However, obviously he has acknowledged his destiny. One day Elmar visits Wendy and tells her that they are intended to be together. He additionally vows to free from the office, be that as it may. Wendy disregards his cases in general and on second thought calls the watchman for help. Rankled at the double crossing, Elmar declares that he will pursue her family and kill them individually. In the following scene we get to realize that Carl has likewise been endorsed the blue pills from Specialist Harsh. Everything of an unexpected, the power is cut off from their home and Elmar shows up there. Back at the office there is a comparable power cut which empowers the detainees to circumvent, including Wendy. Notwithstanding, when outside, she is faced by Specialist Harsh and a couple of watchmen. Things look inauspicious for our hero. However, all of a sudden, Merrick shows up at the scene and saves Wendy. He valiantly battles the gatekeepers and curbs them individually. Sadly, in the process he is shot on different occasions. As Merrick is taking drugs, his powers are calmed and in this manner he calmly passes on, expecting to see his family again some time later. Wendy makes it home where she finds her family being kept prisoner by the insane Elmar. She has a go at punching him. Yet, without her powers, it isn't very useful. All of a sudden Laura's throws are an elastic glove so she can hit Elmar with. Getting shocked, the arrangement works and simultaneously, Wendy's medicine additionally wears off and she recaptures her powers utilizing everything that is in her. She then, at that point, punches Elmar through the wall and into the poof. I mean the pool, where he shocks himself and kicks the bucket after the experience when he mournfully embraces her loved ones. Knowing that it's the ideal opportunity for her to leave and safeguard them from the states, she vows to stay in contact and leaves with a genuine farewell. As she leaves, Wendy feels a freshly discovered feeling of direction and assurance to bring down the bad framework that a detainer. Years after the fact, we see Wendy as a vigilante utilizing her powers to battle for equity and safeguard the people who can't safeguard themselves. She watches out for her family from a good ways, continuously ensuring that they're completely safe. Yet Wendy's main goal is a long way from being done as she finds the ones who had gotten away from the office, trying to deal with them and guarantee that no other person needs to endure. As she did the post-credit scene of the film, then, at that point, uncovers that Carl has acquired his mom's qualities as he protects himself from his domineering jerks by making them float. Time to cast a ballot. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.